A father hears a stranger calm a crying child with the exact sentence only his missing son's mother ever used. 19 years ago, his 3-year-old vanished from a fenced playground. No witnesses. No cameras. No answers. Now that sentence is back. And the person who said it just disappeared. Before you scroll, before you blink, listen to this. A child vanishes in seconds. A mother searches for decades. And the truth only comes back because of one sentence. If you think real-life mysteries always end in silence, this story will change you. Tonight's case isn't just about a missing child. It's about how someone can grow up with a new name, a new family, a new life, and never know they were stolen. It's about how trauma hides inside ordinary moments. Inside playgrounds. Inside living rooms. Inside a mother comforting her child. And somewhere out there right now, another family may still be waiting for the same miracle. Before we begin, subscribe to this channel if you believe forgotten victims deserve to be remembered. Turn on notifications, because every story here is chosen to expose what silence tries to bury. And I need you to do one more thing before this video really starts. In the comments, write one word, found. If you believe every missing child deserves to come home. Stay with me, because the next few minutes will take you through a disappearance, a hidden crime network, and a twist no one saw coming. This is not just a story. This is a life that was erased. Nobody remembers the exact second their life splits in two. For Marcus Hale, it happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon in Savannah, Georgia. He was standing near the outdoor ferry terminal, waiting for his ride home, half watching a young father and a little girl sitting on a wooden bench a few steps away. The girl was maybe 5. Pink sneakers. Hair tied too tight. Knees swinging above the pavement. She slipped. It wasn't dramatic. Just a small fall. A scraped palm. A sharp breath before the cry. The man beside her moved quickly, kneeling down, brushing dirt from her hand, and said, without thinking, without hesitation, "Breathe once for me first." Marcus froze. He didn't hear the second part out loud. He whispered it. "Then you can cry." At the same exact moment, the man said it too. The girl inhaled, shaky and obedient. Then the tears came. Marcus felt the sound leave his chest. Not because the words were unusual, but because those words were his. His wife used to say them. Only her. Only to their son. A son who vanished 19 years ago. The man lifted the girl gently, thanked someone passing by, and walked into the crowd. And just like that, Marcus Hale was standing in the same city, in the same life, with a sentence that should have been buried forever. 19 years earlier, Marcus Hale still believed in ordinary afternoons. It was June 3, 2007, and the playground behind Riverside Community Center was full. Laughter, squeaking swings, parents leaning against chain-link fences, scrolling through phones before phones became habits. Noah was 3. Small for his age. Soft curls. A blue dinosaur shirt he refused to take off. Marcus had brought him there after work. Just 30 minutes. Just enough time to make his son laugh before dinner. Noah was building something in the sandbox. A crooked road. A tunnel that collapsed every time he tried to finish it. When Marcus' phone rang, he turned slightly, just enough to block the sun from the screen. His sister. He looked away. 40 seconds. That was all. When he looked back, the sandbox was still there. The bucket was still there. The little plastic shovel was tipped over on its side. But Noah was gone. At first, Marcus smiled. Children wander. He called his name. Once. Then louder. Then screaming. People turned. Parents searched. Someone pointed toward the parking lot and said they thought they saw a woman walking fast. Police arrived within minutes. Dogs. Flashlights. Questions. But the only answer anyone ever found was a space in the sand where a small boy had been sitting, and a father who never forgave himself for answering a phone. The sentence didn't come from Marcus. It came from Elena, Noah's mother. She had learned it from her own grandmother, whispered to her during thunderstorms and scraped knees and nights when fear sat too heavy in a child's chest. Breathe once first, then you can cry. It was never written down, never shared, never posted. It belonged to their house, to their hallway, to the soft space between Elena's hands and Noah's shoulders. After Noah vanished, the words disappeared with him. At least Marcus thought they had. For the first 2 years, Elena barely spoke at all. She moved through the house like someone afraid to disturb a ghost. She kept Noah's room exactly the same. The dinosaur shirt still folded on the chair. The broken toy truck still under the bed. Every night, she stood in the doorway and whispered the sentence anyway. Not to anyone, just to the air. The marriage collapsed quietly. No screaming. No blame spoken out loud. Only blame that lived in every silence. By the 3rd year, the police stopped calling. By the 5th, the flyers turned yellow. By the 10th, people stopped using Noah's name in conversation. But Marcus never forgot the sound of Elena saying it. The rhythm. The pause. The breath between the words. That's how he knew. On that bench in Savannah, the voice didn't belong to coincidence. It belonged to someone who had learned it from his son. Marcus didn't go home that afternoon. He stood exactly where the bench had been, replaying the scene like a broken recording. The man. The little girl. The way the sentence had landed in the air between them. He walked the entire ferry terminal twice. Asked a ticket clerk if she'd seen a father with a small girl in pink sneakers. She shook her head politely. Security told him the outdoor cameras didn't cover the bench area. Of course they didn't. That night, Marcus barely slept. By sunrise, he was back. Same place. Same bench. Same view of the crowd spilling in and out of the terminal. He stayed for 6 hours. Nothing. On the 3rd day, he started doing something he hadn't done in almost 2 decades. He started asking questions again. Not about Noah. About the man. About a father in his early 30s. Dark jacket. Brown backpack. A little girl who held his hand like she still trusted the world. One shuttle driver finally said something that made Marcus' stomach turn. "I remember them," he said. "They're not from here." They asked about the hospital route. The hospital. Marcus wrote it down with shaking hands. Because suddenly this wasn't about memory anymore. It was about movement. Someone had passed through his life again. And this time, they had left a trail. The next morning, Marcus walked into the front lobby of Memorial Health University Medical Center in Savannah with a lie already prepared in his mouth. He told the receptionist he was trying to locate a man who'd brought in a child with a minor fall injury 2 days earlier. Scraped hand. Pink sneakers. About 5 years old. The woman checked quickly. Nothing. But a security officer standing nearby paused. He asked Marcus to repeat the description. Then he quietly said something that made Marcus' breath disappear. There was a child brought in that afternoon. But it wasn't a father. It was a woman. Late 20s. Dark jacket. Brown backpack. She'd carried the girl inside, told triage it was a simple accident, and left before discharge papers were even printed. No last name. No insurance card. Just a first name written on the intake screen. Avery. Marcus walked straight out and drove to the downtown precinct of the Savannah Police Department for the first time in 19 years. The same building. Different officers. Same hollow feeling. When he said his son's name, one young detective searched the system and went very quiet. Because 19 years ago, a missing boy named Noah Hale had vanished in this city. And 2 days ago, a little girl had appeared at a hospital, with no legal guardian attached to her at all. The detective's name was Renee Porter. She didn't treat Marcus like a desperate parent chasing shadows. She treated him like evidence. She pulled Noah's case file from digital storage and read it silently for almost 3 minutes. Then she said something Marcus had waited 19 years to hear. This never made sense. The original report listed no confirmed witnesses, no usable surveillance, no known suspects. But there was one detail that had always bothered investigators. Noah had vanished from a fenced playground. No broken gate. No camera failure recorded. Just a child gone. When Marcus told her about the sentence on the bench, and the name Avery, Renee didn't smile politely. She opened a new search window. Hospital intakes. Unregistered guardians. Short-stay pediatric visits. Within seconds, one entry appeared. A 5-year-old girl. First name only. No insurance. No listed parent. No ID presented. Renee leaned back slowly. Marcus, this isn't a custody problem. She turned the monitor toward him. 3 similar cases appeared beneath it. Different children. Different names. Same pattern. Temporary medical visits. No documentation. No follow-up. Renee lowered her voice. If this person is moving children without paper trails, this may not be about your son alone. For the first time since Noah disappeared, Marcus realized he might have walked into something much bigger than grief. Renee didn't show Marcus the footage right away. She closed the door first. Then she turned her monitor toward him. Security video from the emergency entrance of Memorial Health University Medical Center. The timestamp matched. The camera caught the girl in pink sneakers being carried through the sliding doors. And the adult beside her was not the person Marcus had described. Not a man. Not a woman either. At least, not clearly. Short hair. Narrow shoulders. Flat chest. Heavy jacket zipped high. The intake form still said Avery, female guardian. Renee froze the frame. Zoomed. Then pulled another clip. From the public ferry terminal 2 blocks away. Different camera. Same backpack. Same walk. Same girl. But in this video, the person beside her was clearly male-presenting. Marcus felt dizzy. It's the same person, Renee said quietly. Same posture. Same limp in the left foot. Same habit of pulling the strap on their backpack every few seconds. But they're presenting as different genders, Marcus whispered. Renee nodded. And that tells me something important. She opened a new file. A sealed juvenile disappearance case from 2007. A 3-year-old boy. Taken from a fenced playground. Name on the screen. Noah Hale. Renee turned to him. Marcus, whoever Avery is. Her voice dropped. They learned your family's sentence the only way someone ever could. From your child. By nightfall, the case was no longer only Renee's. A call was placed to the Federal Bureau of Investigation Field Office assigned to coastal Georgia. Not for Noah. For a pattern. 3 hospitals. For undocumented pediatric visits. 1 adult moving children under shifting identities. And now, a gender-shifting presentation that let 1 person become 2 witnesses. Renee spread the files across the conference table. Every child had one thing in common. They were old enough to remember something, and young enough to forget most of it. Whoever this is, the agent said quietly, they're not selling babies. They're rehoming children who already belong to someone. Marcus stared at the photographs. 1 little boy from 2011. A girl from 2015. Another child whose parents were still actively searching. And then Renee slid one more image forward. A transport camera from a courthouse hallway. Avery, no disguise this time. Standing beside a social worker. Signing a temporary placement form. The signature was shaky, but legible. Avery Cross. The agent exhaled. Not a broker, he said. Not a trafficker in the traditional sense. Renee looked at Marcus. This person inserts themselves into broken systems and walks children out through the cracks. Marcus whispered the only thing that mattered. Then they know exactly where Noah came from. The confirmation didn't come from DNA. It came from a fingerprint. Avery Cross had been stopped 3 years earlier in Florida during a routine traffic checkpoint. No charges. No arrest. Just a digital print logged and forgotten. Until now. Renee stared at the match result so long Marcus thought she had frozen. Then she turned the screen toward him and quietly said the words his body refused to understand. It's him. The fingerprint registered under a sealed juvenile profile. A missing child file. Reclassified. Reissued. Noah Hale. Marcus stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. That's not possible, he said. He was 3. Renee's voice barely carried. He's 22 now. The room felt smaller. The air felt wrong. Avery Cross was not someone who learned the sentence from Noah. Avery Cross was Noah. The shifting identity. The changing gender presentation. The backpack. The limp. The way the words came out without thinking. Because they had been spoken to him. Hundreds of times. By his mother. Renee pulled up the psychological assessment attached to the old juvenile welfare file. One line had been added 2 years ago after an emergency intake in another state. Subject expresses fixation on removing children from unsafe systems. Believes he is correcting what failed him. Marcus covered his mouth. The person taking children was the child who was never brought home. They found Noah 3 days later. Not in a shelter. Not in a hospital. In a small rented apartment outside Savannah, stacked with children's clothes in different sizes, second-hand backpacks, and handwritten schedules taped to the wall. Every child he had moved had a name written beside it. And beside every name, a return plan. Noah didn't run. When the officers knocked, he opened the door himself. He looked smaller than Marcus imagined. Older than the boy he lost. And impossibly familiar. When Marcus stepped inside, Noah recognized him before anyone spoke. Not by his face. By the sentence. Marcus whispered it without thinking. Breathe once for me first. Noah's lips moved on instinct. Then you can cry. His knees folded. 22 years of survival collapsed into one broken breath. Noah didn't deny what he'd done. He only said one thing. They were going to disappear like I did. In Noah's mind, he wasn't stealing children. He was rescuing them from becoming ghosts. The girl in the pink sneakers was reunited with her parents that night. And Noah, the boy Marcus lost, was finally taken somewhere safe. Not to a cell. To a hospital. To therapy. To a future that would never be simple, but would finally be real. Because sometimes the darkest twist in a true crime story is when the missing child grows up believing the only way to save others is to become the person who took him. If this story stayed with you, that's because it isn't really over. Somewhere right now, another mother is still waiting. Another family is still searching. Another child is still living a life that might not be theirs. And the most frightening part is this. Most cases like this are never solved. Not because the truth doesn't exist, but because people stop paying attention. So before you leave this video, I want you to do something meaningful. Backhand index pointing down, go to the comments and answer this one question. Do you believe you would recognize someone you lost, even after 20 years? Read other people's answers. Reply to 1. Start the conversation, because awareness is how cold cases stay alive. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. On this channel, we uncover the cases no one talks about, the disappearances that never made headlines, and the truths hidden behind perfect families and clean paperwork. Tap subscribe. Watch one more story on this channel. I've linked a case beside this video that will stay with you just as long. And remember this: sometimes justice doesn't arrive with sirens. Sometimes it arrives with a sentence and someone finally listening.